Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Genisus Esports YouTube channel for round 4 of Season 2 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. This week we are visiting France, and we are off to the circuit that is, I want to say famous, it's Paul Ricard. That's all I can say about it. But thankfully, keep me company and keeping me safe from the harm that is Paul Ricard. Tapello Merioli is always here with me. Tapello, I mean, look at it. What is that, Tapello? That is not a circuit.
Look, it's an art project that they decided to use for something else. So it was kind of, let's do this beautiful thing, and then someone was like, well, there's space for a racetrack somewhere in there, and then we find ourselves here. So I don't know how I feel about this track, which is the weirdest thing to say, because I've raced on it a few times, I've watched races on it a few times. I'm just meh about the whole thing.
I absolutely agree. And the thing is, as a commentator, I don't mind it. You can see here, this is the full range of 12 rounds that we've got here. Paul Ricard this week, we're off to Watkins Glen and Kyalami, Kota, which is another snooze fest, Bathurst, Spa, Brantach, Valencia and Silverstone. I must state that, by the way, that my dislike of Paul Ricard comes from the fact of trying to drive it. I'm a very old sim racer, and I get confused very easily. And all these blue and white and red lines, they confuse me, and I get very, very lost very, very easily. Thankfully, from my experience as a broadcaster and commentator, you get some damn fine racing on here, and that is exactly what I think we are going to see here tonight through the course of this 5.7 kilometre circuit. All eyes are going to be at the end of the Mistral Straight, and all eyes are going to be around the Curb de Seigne. In the meantime, let's remind ourselves what happened last time out at Nürburgring. George Boothby on pole position alongside Noah Eder. Then in row 2, Cody Sherritt lines up alongside Marco Bischoff. We go racing, the green flags fly, and that's a hell of a start from Noah Eder as they charge down the pit wall for the first time of asking down into turn 1 then. Eder has the advantage on the outside. Is he going to be able to make anything stick there? There's chaos and carnage, and boom! There goes the dynamite straight into the back there. Pinball here, so it is Alexander Kuznetsov here. Gets tagged there, and I'll be honest with you, oh man, that's a horrible instant stamp if that had come together with the Mercedes there. Keeps the foot in, and well, oh my god, why?
The 10-pin bowling maneuver we saw at the start of this race, as we focus on the cars right now. Tariq Adam on the outside trying to go for the overtake. Sasha Vosner has to take the curbs and go on the grass, so he loses 2 positions there.
That was Jonathan Clifford fires it up the inside of Hill there, trying to get that move done again on the McLaren. Clifford will pull it round on the inside. Hill tries to go around the outside, but actually that was a very, very clean move there by Jonathan Clifford. As here comes Grantis Caracas, tries to play it up the inside. That's never going to work, causes contact, and that was a poor incident there from Grantis Caracas. You were never going to get that position. Let's have a look here then on board. This is Abe Santima. It's a hardware failure. It looks like the wheel is just disconnected there through the field then, as there goes Grantis Caracas finally trying to get this move done around the outside of the Aston Martin, shown to the grass there by the big bad Aston, but he's going to try and have the inside line, and that Aston is simply going to try and drive around the outside of him. Beautiful stuff there, and I'll tell you what, hats off to Valentin Barrier. That has been just a masterclass, a sheer masterclass in defensive driving tonight. He's done everything that's been required. It's looked so bloody easy yet again, but round 3 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship, George Boothby takes the checker flag. Marco Bischoff makes it 2-3 for Sprout Esports. Noah Eder will come across the line in P3, and Grantis Caracas, try as he might, he could not find a way past the barrier that is Valentin Barrier. Another dominant performance then from George Boothby last time out at Nürburgring, and that has a huge impact on the championship. Let's have a look at the points then after 3 rounds of this second season. And you can see now 1 point ahead of Marco Bischoff is George Boothby. Remember, we do have that drop round to consider. Noah Eder in 3rd position. And looking at the points there, given that from 1st to 10th place there, just around about 25 points separating them, Simone Seminara there, it's still, Tapello, way too early to draw any conclusions here, and that drop round will have a significant effect.
Yeah, look, for sure. I think the closeness kind of tells us it's that point of the season where you kind of ignore the table. Just keep scoring points, keep pitching up at races, just keep trying to do your best. It's too early to start the count. If I miss this, if I get this, too early. Just be consistent, put in the laps, put in the races, see what happens by around round 9. I think that's where you can start safely counting what's about to happen. But for now, just be present, just be available, just do your job.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that whatsoever. Let's go to trackside then, as qualifying is underway. Marco Bischoff, currently fastest man on there, and George Boothby 0.4 of a second off the pace here. Very fast field so far tonight. Looks like around about P25 separated by that 1 second so far. So again, just really going to have to keep an eye on how this all progresses. Also hearing that from our production team here, Tapello, no Luke Whitehead again tonight. That, while it is very early in the championship, I mean, that's a huge hole in any sort of title hopes, you'd think.
Yeah, look, that's one of the key things I noticed tonight. Look, he's not here, and considering how dominant he was at some tracks last season and just how competitive he was, I think that's a big letdown. We'd love to see him racing. We'd love to see him putting pressure on George Boothby. Obviously, George Boothby will be happy that Luke Whitehead is not racing again tonight. Just gives him another opportunity to try and blast the rest of the field away. But very interesting, currently in P6 is Simone Seminara, 2/10 off the top. Now, the reason why I point her out is I actually watched a bit of qualifying, and they were the fastest at one point with a very good lap. So they might be a person to watch just how this qualifying session pans out. There's a 1.5 minutes to go. I think they might have a very good qualifying position in this race.
Yeah, that could very well be the case indeed. That's what we're going to have to look out for as Bischoff pulls off to the side. Let's talk you through a little bit of the circuit then briefly. This is the 46 of Noah Eder, just coming down into Bousset, the double right-hander, as we go on board with Valentin Barry then. Coming down Main Street, down into the first S's, then into Verrier. It's a left, then a right. Pretty high speed circuit this, very minimal in terms of elevation changes through that right hander. Then we're going into Hotel before we go on the run up to Virage de Camp. Again, a very tight right hander, and then it's through to Sambo. Through that right hander, and this is such an important corner here because this is what sets you up for the long run down this Mistral straight here. Left-hander there really isn't any consequence whatsoever, but again, as they come round, this is where the cars are going to be slipstreaming each other into the toe, into the drag of the car in front, and then at the last possible moment as they approach the curb scene, it'll be into an overtake, firing it up the inside where possible. But don't be surprised if you see cars going wide off out of that corner here. Very easy to understeer wide there, but there is quite a generous amount of track limits as we see Philippe Minard going into pole position from Marco Bischoff, 8 1/1000ths of a second, and that is a tight pole position right there, but still some cars on track here. We've gone through Bousset, we're through Ben d'Or right now. This is coming up to Garlban before we've just got 3 corners left to go. This lap is going to be invalidated, but we're still going to watch, just take you through the track here, through Virage de la Tour, and then into that final corner then, tight right-hander for Virage du Pont, and then it is across the line But for Valentin Barrier, it's going to be into pit lane. And to be fair, at least he's done it realistically there, Tapello, rather than just stopping off track or rather escaping back to the pit lane. He's decided to actually drive the car right round.
Yeah, look, I know some drivers actually prefer that kind of way to do the pits. You know, they kind of do the realistic way, trying to get their lines optimized for the race as well. So I like that. But yeah, very interesting. Interesting positions actually as we head to the end of qualifying. George Boothby currently P10, but looking at that top 5, a few people kind of picking their heads up there. Tariq Adam, good to see him kind of on form again. He was finished the last season brilliantly. So to see him P5, and the interesting thing is he's P5 but only a 10th from the top. So that shows just how close the qualifying laps were for this particular session, and that signals the end of qualifying. So very, very interesting end to qualifying there, David. Who are you looking for? Who do you think is going to make an impression tonight?
Well, just to follow on from what you were saying there, Tapello, a cheeky little lap right at the end there. We just saw it getting into third place for Marco Schade in the Honda. I think he's going to be a bit of a revelation here tonight. This is one of those tracks that really throws it to the underdogs or to the cars that we don't normally see. So if we've got any Hondas or Aston Martins, they might be one to watch. You can't look past George Boothby though. That dominant win last time out at Nürburgring. Again, I think track limits are going to be a huge issue here, so that's who I'm going to be looking for. George Boothby, maybe Adam Spansky in there as well. Philippe Minard on pole position. Anyone in the top 10 I think has a ridiculous chance, but then you've also got Cody Sherritt outside the top 10 as well, so lots to keep an eye on. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a textbook definition of how you keep yourself on the fence before a race. Philippe Minard though on pole position with Marco Bischoff alongside in second position. On row 2, Marco Schade is alongside Noah Ader. Tariq Adam on there in row 3 alongside Valentin Barrier, as well as Adam Spansky and Simone Seminara. So all your main title contenders right now in that top 8. You've then got Sakiri Lehtinen in 9th position on row 5. George Boothby is on 10th position as well. Cody Sherritt is in 11th. Tommy Rozier in 12th. And then Abe Santima in 13th position. You've got Loic Renier in 14th. Sasha Vassner in 15th. You've got Dennis Wietschork in 16th position. And Karppinen on 17th as well. It's Christian Duploy on 18th. And Oskar Zier in 19th position as well. Luke Harrison in 19th, you've got Hache in 21st, Samir Foch in 22nd, and then you've got Manson as well in 23rd. We've got another 9 cars behind them, and we'll run through them as soon as we get them up on screen. And well, this is going to be an epic race. Again, not my favourite track as a driver, but it does always give some fantastic racing there. And I do have to apologise to the Ferrari number 78 of Oscar Kier there, whose name I absolutely butchered while going down. So now we see them on the screen. Let's take you through the remaining drivers then. In 24th position, you've got Edvardsen. 25th is Clifford. 26th is the homing missile. Jimmy Holm is back on. Let's go. Simon is in 27th. You've then got Kuznetsov in 28th. You've got Ronaldo Boersma in 29th. You've got Nigel Smith-Adams in 30th position, Hill in 31st, Romano in 32nd, Stein in 33rd, and Lovrink in 34th position. So 34 cars that we've got with us. Fantastic to see still so many cars out there in the opening half of the season, and it's time to pilot for the formation lap.
Yeah, look, I just adjusted my glasses because I think we're going to have an action-packed race. But, you know, I'm looking at the qualifying position so far, and I'm very interested to see kind of the usual candidates to finish within the top 10. You know, your Sasha Vassners, your Apes and Teamers. How will they kind of navigate this opening? Because they're kind of off the page, you know, sitting there P13, P15, where we know they kind of do a lot of their business in the top 10. So it will be interesting to see what they can do in the opening 5-10 lap stint, maybe, just to see how they position themselves and set up their races. Because again, it's an hour race, which is a very interesting time limit, you kind of work around. And again, we've already said this season, we've already seen a huge undercut because of the mandatory pit stop. So could we see that kind of race again, where people use the pit stop to their advantage, kind of set themselves up for that miracle overtake in the pits?
It's very possible. Strategy is something that we're going to have to talk about through the majority of this 1 hour race here, because we've seen how powerful that overcut can be depending on the track. Now, at Nürburgring, strategy didn't really play all that much a part in terms of, you know, how dominant that George Boothby was. That was raw pace and talent alone that kind of did that one. However, my question is, what has happened to Boothby tonight here? He's down in P10. He's got Cody Sherritt chomping at the heels right now. And in all intents and purposes, that is not a position where you want to be at such an early stage of the race here, given the bedlam that is likely to happen on the way down to Estée Le Verrier. Also, I've noticed that Marco Schade, I was getting excited because that Honda was up in third, was being the word, because Noah Ader then immediately took that third position back. But it is Philippe Minard who is leading the field around. We've just got around about 4 corners left to go. They're getting themselves psyched up. A lot of gaps also forming at this stage of the race. We've got a car not taken to the grid. That is Ronaldo Boersma, who is still in the pit lane. We'll see if he can get out. He's maybe actually deciding to just avoid all of the chaos that is potentially about to unfold. Also trying to understand why Stein is being given a triangle marker at the back of the grid on the minimap as well. That's usually reserved for the race leader. A little bit unsure, but we'll find that out. Either way, Philippe Minard, Marco Bischoff, all the way down to turn 1. We are here for round number 4 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship Season 2. We are as excited as we can be for a race here at Paul Ricard, David Christie and Tapelo Marioli here with you as we wait for the lights to go green and for Philippe Minard to lead these 34 cars down to turn number 1, and we are underway. Fantastic start there from row 2. Marco Schade there, you can see the Honda already up as we go 3 wide down into turn 1. What could possibly go wrong? Philippe Minard takes the pair of them there, but that's a fantastic move by Schade. He's fighting side by side with Marco Bischoff, and this could be a position already done. They're still side by side as Minard jumps off into the distance there. That's a move as well. Tariq Adam contact with the 2 of them, and that is going to send Marco Bischoff straight back into the pack there. But what happened to Schade? He tries to rejoin there, but he's going to have a hard time. Jumps in just beside, that is the Aston Martin right beside him of Valentin Barrier. So that is down to 7th position already. And Tapelo, that was always likely to happen there.
Yeah, look, definitely always likely to happen. 2 drivers kind of looking to cement their position on track, elbows out, trying to assert their dominance, opening lap, get in the position, trying to put pressure on Philippe Minard. Actually had a very brilliant start from P1.
Huge accident!
And we've got contact in the back. Ooh, carnage. Ooh, we've got a car flipped over. That's the
my
God.
God!
That's the first for the season. Carnage everywhere on a racetrack that we said shouldn't give us that much carnage, but there we go. And Tariq Adam is up into P4 in that Ferrari, number 9 Ferrari. So again, a brilliant start from him. It's P3, ladies and gentlemen. So brilliant start, kind of drivers finding their positions on track. I think we need this race to kind of settle down for 2 laps, for us to catch our breath and just kind of keep pace and see what's happening all around the circuit.
Unbelievable scenes there on the Mistral Straight there. At least 6 cars involved in that absolute calamity. And we'll get an idea. Cody Sherritt involved in that. The homing missile. Jimmy Holm. I hope to God he wasn't involved. Like he didn't cause that. That would be too much for my little heart at this point in time. But that is absolute tragedy. Pretty much catching anyone outside of the top 15. You can see now Oscar Kerr now moved up into P16. Simone Seminara dropping down to P18. So that was a wild ride there and Noah Ader down into 4th position. You can also see Marco Schade down into that 8th position as well. Now, this is where the real work begins here, because Marco Bischoff is bringing that gap back down. Philippe Minard did get a little brief glimpse of sunlight as he was able to try and open up a bit of a gap ahead of the cars behind him while Bischoff and Shada were fighting it out there. He did get to think, right, I might be able to break away with this, but no such luck. That gap is coming down. What I would say though is Marco Bischoff is now breaking away as well. It's Tariq Adam having a fight off Noah Ader. You've also got Valentin Barrier just behind there as well, but it certainly is Tariq Adam and Ader that are the closest ones right now, as that's a little bit wide there from Valentin Barrier. They're all checking up. And again, track limits is going to be a huge thing here as Noah Ader tries to get the up and under on Tariq Adam. A little bit of a hip check there, and that is going to be Tariq Adam on the inside. And you're possibly going to try and see Valentin Barrier up the inside here as well here. This is all getting a little bit physical, and we're less than 4 minutes into the start of the race here.
Yeah, look, very difficult to keep track on who's doing what, because again, we speak about this in the opening laps of a stint, as we can see. Again, there, Noah Ader getting on the inside of Tariq Adam, and he's got the position so far, but Tariq Adam is still in a position to come back. He will have the inside line breaking into turn 1, and you see the McLaren looks to have the legs on the straights on the Ferrari, and Tariq Adam can't do much with that deficit on the straight. So looking like this is a circuit that will favor the McLarens, as we have a replay coming up, and I think it will be for the major incident on lap 1. But again, so difficult to keep track. Everyone is trying to find their positions on the circuit, and it's just carnage everywhere. But again, like I said, we need 2 laps of just calm racing so we can catch our breath, have some highlights, and just see what happened in that opening lap, David.
Let's have a look then at what happened as Valentin Barry is still trying to defend from Adam Spansky here. I think we're not actually going to get a moment at all to cut away from the action, because there goes Marco Schade. You've also got the other Honda there of Sakira Lehtinen, who's trying to make this go as well. That's a move up the inside then. There goes Adam Spansky, 3 wide. What could possibly go wrong as they come up to Curb de Seigne? They're going right the outside. Oh my god, he's been absolutely mugged. Valentin Barrier there gets done by the Honda of Marco Schade and by Adam Spansky at the same time. But then that means that that's going to be wide there, I believe, for Spansky. And that is just brutal luck here.
Yeah, look, it's brutal racing, but it's also about taking the opportunity when it presents itself. And we saw that done expertly by the Honda of Marco Schade, just putting it in line and just trying to get that position when it counts. And I think, hearing from my ears, we should have the replay coming up. Finally get the replay just to see what happened in that opening lap as they were heading down the Mistral Straight. It was Cody Charity, and let's see.
Oh!
Ooh!
Now that was a bump draft gone wrong from his teammate behind, and well, I'll be honest with you, that is going to be an awkward team debrief at the end of the race, Tapello, because that was absolutely unnecessary there. Tried to give a little bit of a push. We've seen it go wrong so many times before, and oh man, that is so unfortunate to be taken out by your teammate.
And I think that's what makes it so difficult, because you're not communicating to say, I'm going to give you a bump draft. So it's kind of you having the faith that the guy in front of you is thinking exactly the same way that you're thinking behind them, that you're just going to give them this bump draft. They just need to keep straight. And unfortunately, this tends to happen sometimes, where the guy in front is not thinking about the bump draft. They're actually thinking you're going for a move, so they try to position their cars defensively, and that just shifts the angle of the contact on the bump draft, and that could be the result. And unfortunately, because it happened at such a high-speed section of the circuit, everyone is bunched up. Not a lot that the other drivers could do to avoid that, and that's why you saw a lot of drivers getting picked up in that incident. So I want to say pure racing incident, and I know the stewards will have a different view, but that's just a racing incident. Unfortunately, it's a racing incident that cost the race for a lot of people.
Wow. Yep, let's have a look then at what happens. And oh my goodness me. And that is an unfortunate moment for the number 25 for Dennis as he gets sent into the barriers there, into oncoming traffic, and then boom! Oh no, that is, and I get the feeling that because we're watching the replay, it's more. And there's another one. This is right. Here's a bugbear for me, Tapello. Right. You get the call from your spotter in a Assetto Corsa Competizione that there's yellow flags, right? I did not see brake lights on any of those cars. Why?
Well, David, sometimes you need to full send and hope for the best, I guess.
This isn't Days of Thunder. This isn't, I believe in you, Cole. You can do it. But there was no smoke there. They could see that it was just almost certain death there.
Yeah, look, and I know this is weird, especially when you're considering what we're commentating on, but am I the only one who tends to flinch when we have these big crashes?
Yep.
Like, I know no one's getting hurt, you know, for the most part, but you kind of flinch when you see the contact coming. You're like, oh, there we go, and then boom, it happens. So, yeah, one of those weird things you see in sim racing, but these things tend to happen, and it's just unfortunate that we lost so many cars to that incident.
No, you're not the only one on that one. It's even worse in slow motion where I'm just like, no, you know what's coming and it's still brutal. Right, here's a turn up for the brakes. Marco Bischoff has been given a 10-second penalty for the contact on lap 1 with Marco Schade. That was the incident that we saw where Schade was nudged out to the side. Stewards have deemed that necessary to give that a 10-second penalty. I don't even want to know what the penalty is that they're going to assign for what we just saw down into that one. I think they might have already decided on that one since there was a lot of chaos and carnage here. But if you have just joined us, ladies and gentlemen, you've probably missed quite a lot there. There we go, confirmation though of that 10-second penalty incident between cars 717 and 65. 10-second time penalty to the 717 for causing a collision. If you have just joined us, this is round 4 of season 2 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. It is a 60-minute race here at Paul Ricard. Philippe Minard is currently 0.6 of a second in the leads ahead of Marco Bischoff. However, that's now a 2.8 second gap ahead of Noah Eder, and that gap, I think, is going to play very much into the hands of Philippe Minard, as we've got a message from Race Control. Incident between the cars 52 and 87 and the 505 on lap 1. That is a 15-second penalty for the 52 of Lovering. And, well, I guess that shows you how much the race has kind of been topsy-turvy to Pello, because Lovering was at the back of the grid. In fact, Lovering started last in P34 and is now up to P22.
Yeah, look, I think the stewards are going to be doing their best imitation of Oprah tonight, with giving up penalties to you, me, them. Everyone's getting a penalty. But yeah, that just shows how dramatic the opening laps of this race were. And it is kind of settling down, but we're still seeing a lot of challenges around the circuit. And of course, I think more penalties are going to come out as we get another race control notification. Incident between cars 1052 and 213 on that one. 15-second time penalty for car number 10 for causing a collision. So again, a lot of penalties will go out, and we've kind of seen the penalties kind of dictate the way the race goes. Some drivers kind of give up on the race and use the race as purely practice and strategy planning for the LFM race for tomorrow night, but the penalties do decide what happens, and some drivers will now drive being very conscious of the penalties that have been handed out and how to navigate their way from there, Dave.
Well, I'm gonna be a little bit lost for words here, because I'm just seeing the penalty that is about to come the way of Abe Santima. That is monstrous. We'll get confirmation of that just now. Instant between the 14 and the 38. So Abe Santima drives into the rear of the number 38, causing the 38 spin, and collect other cars. Drive-through penalty. For a stop-and-go penalty. It's a stop-and-go 30 that's been given to Abe Santima. So significantly worse than a drive-through. And given that that's on top of your pit stop, I mean, that's any chance of getting any points now completely almost down the drain.
Yeah, I think one of us should start emailing Abe right now to tell him, log off, mate. Nothing's gonna happen tonight. You know, just go to bed. Or what? Liverpool is playing Chelsea later tonight. Prep for that game. Hold one in your hand. Watch that game, because you're gonna have a bad race going forward. But jokes aside, we're still seeing the gaps close up. And as we focus here on Philippe Minard and Marco Bischoff has been chipping away at this lead lap after lap after lap, and I think they've gotten themselves in the key position where now slipstreaming becomes a major advantage for them against Philippe Minard. So it will be interesting to see how Marco Bischoff navigates this first sector, setting up the car for the Mistral Straight, which is where you want to plan your overtakes and where you want to be closest on a circuit like this.
Yeah, and that is pretty much spot on as we're watching Sakira Lehtinen onto the back of Valentin Barrier. We're going to see pit stops coming up in the next, I would imagine, 10 minutes or so. It's usually a 20-minute period. There you go. You can see Abe Santima confirming that he's got that stop-go 30, and that really, apart from disqualification, is literally the heaviest penalty that can be thrown at a driver there. Now, it's important to note that there was extra weight given to that decision because it happens on lap 1. Here comes though Simone Seminara onto the back of Luke Addison, and the Ferraris of Genesis Esports really do look like they are kind of struggling on this Mistral Straight here as Simone Seminara then goes to the outside. They've also got Loic Renier just up in front. This is the battle for P14 right now. The Ferrari just holds on coming into Coeur d'Alene as the two of them go a little bit wide. But again, track limits going to be the one thing to watch through the tail end of the race here. They'll get away with it 3 times and that will be their final warning, and then it'll be a drive-through penalty that automatically gets assigned by the game here. As you can see, a car off on the inside. That is the 65 of Marco Schade. So that is a bit of an incident that's happened there. I wonder if he's gone deep into the corner, but there goes George Boothby, there goes Valentin Barrier. There's chaos as the 800 of George Boothby can't quite decide where he wants to go here. And Tapello, this is what we see time and time again here, where cars are a little bit nervous, they're not sure about the intention of the cars around them, and they stumble and fall across each other.
Yeah, and that tends to happen when there's a lot of pressure to kind of find your spot on the track. You know, we've had major incidents, we've had penalties, we've had collisions, so drivers are kind of driving with an increased level of pressure because they're trying to hold position, but they're also trying to move forward, and that's what you're seeing right now with Valentin Barrier. As you can look, 4 cars on their rear, so that is a lot of pressure, but you also want to go forward because in front of Valentin Barrier, George Boothby is not that far off. So there is the potential for an overtake, but there's also the potential of being overtaken from behind. And for a driver in Valentin Barrier's position, or situation rather, it becomes insanely difficult to kind of choose what you want to do, be confident that the cars around you are thinking in the same way that you do, and also considering that you don't want to make a mistake that could end your race or a competitor's race. So there's a lot of things going through your mind in this kind of situation, and David, it becomes insanely difficult to deal with that.
That just exited stage left. Was that Sakiri Lehtinen that just went straight on at Coeur d'Alene? It was. So Lehtinen now down to 11th position there. That is one of the benefits of Paul Ricard here, is the fact that insanely wide runoff areas. There's just tarmac everywhere. So thankfully the chances of actually reaching the barrier are very, very small indeed. Also seeing that the gap to Philippe Minard and Marco Bischoff, that's now down to 0.3 of a second. So Bischoff now catching right up to the back of our race leader, and I do wonder about those Ferraris because the pace of them just seems to be falling off a cliff right now. We see every single one of them, and they did have, you know, that maybe qualifying pace there, But in race pace, they just seem to be struggling right now. And these McLarens seem to be coming to the forefront right now, but that gap goes up again. It's all going to be on the run down that Mistral straight here, and whether Bischoff can get a good run out of these corners. The Ferrari seems to be faster in the corners, as you pointed out just about 10 minutes ago there, Tapello. But the McLaren struggle in the corners, and the Ferraris have the edge in the corners.
And I think we've seen this already this season, and I want to say we saw it again at the Nürburgring, where a lot of the work with the Ferraris had to be done in the corners, in the braking, that mid-corner rotation, setting up the exit really well. That was kind of the way to drive the Ferraris to maximize on lap time. Again, the McLarens look so strong on the straights, and I think it's going to be difficult to defend against them the longer the race goes. But as we look here at Valentin Berrier, very, very close to George Boothby now, putting George Boothby under immense pressure as they go into Scene Curve. George Boothby still holding position there. So George Boothby kind of doing the opposite of what we're saying, being able to hold position in the straights. But how long will they be able to defend like this? Your guess is as good as mine, but the longer this goes, the more pressure there is, and the more difficult it will be to kind of stay within track limits, but also be cognizant and setting up your lines, because when you're under pressure, every minute input you make on your steerings, on your pedals, tends to get exaggerated, because you tend to start over driving the car to try and compensate and alleviate the pressure on you, David. So this is a very difficult situation for George Boothby to be in.
Yeah, and they're stuck between a rock and a hard place as well, because obviously you don't want to just gift that position away to the car that you're fighting, but at the same time you're trying desperately to hold on to the advantage that you've got, trying to hold on to the tyre life, because when you push, the car starts to squirrel around and the car gets hot. As we quickly jump onto a replay, so this is what happened earlier on. I believe we're on board with Marco Schade. So that is Sakiri Lehtinen. So that's what happened there. It was on the brakes into Curb de Seine, and again, just a massive tank slapper there. You could see the balance of the car wanting to pull it into the right. He tries overcorrecting it, and it just sends him shooting off to the left-hand side there. Just going back to what I was saying there, though, the drivers really want to try and hold on to the most advantage that they possibly have. They want to hold on to tyre life, because they know they've got 40 minutes left to go in this race. And here comes Valentin Berrier then down the Mistral straight, side by side. He's got the toe, he's got the run up the inside. This should be a fairly straightforward move, but remember, George Boothby is a wily character. He knows exactly what he's doing here, and again, that Ferrari does seem to be faster in the corners. Pit window is open now for 20 minutes, so their mandatory pit stop, and it looks like Abe Santima has thrown the towel in just now. Possibly not surprising, given that he had that stop go 30 to serve.
Yeah, I think he got my email, because I did say I'm going to email him to tell him call it a night. There's not much that's going to happen. So I see my email went through. But jokes aside, again, Simon Semenara, I kind of talked her up in the beginning of the race. Again, I'm sorry, curse of the commentator, but still in a comfortable position, P13. They can do some stuff. It's not really a bad position in the race, but these things, especially after a chaotic first opening stint, it's all about now just finding your rhythm. And this is the weird thing, we don't usually talk about this on a circuit like Paul Ricard, because it's really fast, it's about straight line speed, but there's a lot of rhythm and finding a line that goes into maximizing the lap time on the circuit. So that's what these drivers need to do. The pit window is open, so if I was in their positions right now, we still have 18 minutes of the pit window. Take kind of the next 10 minutes to just push, mode push, try and maximize on track position, maximize on race pace, kill these tires, then get them off, come back out with a fresh car, inverted, and then we start moving again.
That could be a potential strategy for them. I get the feeling, though, that some of these drivers are going to actually try and keep this set until the end, and they might try and save that time that they're in pit lane just getting fuel instead, but I don't think there's too much time to be saved here. We'll keep an eye and see. I don't think we've had any takers down at pit lane. I tell a lie. We've got Manson into pit lane at the moment in the 127 Mercedes. That's another car that we haven't seen too much of so far in this race. Albin Manson behind the wheel of that one. We've also got in the other Mercedes, you've got Christian Deploy, who's up into 15th position. And now that, of course, I've said that, I've realised that Sasha Vassner and Tommy Rozier are 8th and 9th position. So there's quite a few of them. So again, I'll probably try and look at the screen before I open my mouth on that one. But 37 minutes left to go in the race here. We're now rapidly approaching the halfway point, as we saw Roland Stein there in the number 10 Aston Martin. Again, another chance for these newcomers, these rookies into the season, to prove themselves and get some much anticipated and much needed experience in races. You know, for a lot of these drivers, it's not just about, you know, keeping up with the pack or you know, getting into fights or some of the stuff. Sometimes it's just about being able to hold your own and enjoy your race, as we see Skylar Lovrink into pit lane.
Yeah, and look, I'll speak from personal experience, and I cannot emphasize how important it is to sometimes be in a race so that you have the pressures of a race, but you're not involved in anything. No fights, no crashes, no incidents. You're just doing your optimum lap pace, lap after lap after lap. So much development and learning goes into that kind of race. So you're spot on, David, here. For a lot of these drivers, it really is not about getting into battles, fighting for position. It's about being in a race scenario, a live race, but doing your optimum pace and trying to figure out how to go about in a race. That's where you see the race by race improvement week after week, because someone will have, I've coined this term before, boring but scoring races, where you forget about them in commentary. They're just there or thereabouts. You see them once, you forget about them, but you actually find that they did really well. They bested themselves, and all of a sudden, from the races, the next race going forward, they've got the confidence, they've got the pace, they've got the strategy, they've got the mentality of a racer. Just because they had one race, they could figure it out, iron out their kinks, and then build from there.
And it really is about that modular attitude, that modular approach, where it's just sort of building on your successes of previous races. And that's why it was called the Kaizen Championship, because that's exactly the ethos that they're trying to encourage here. That whole idea, that whole mindset of, you know, you execute, you review, then you implement the changes, and you come back stronger and better into the next race. We see that so often, not just through racing, but through business, through personal lives, all that sort of stuff. You just keep going and you keep chipping away, and that is how you get the progress, that is how you get the results. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a little bit too philosophical for 7:15 here UK time on a Wednesday night. I know it's currently, about 20 past 9, I think it is, over there in the good old South Africa, yeah. For yourself. Bed? I'd be in bed by that point. Hello.
Oh, I've got a job to do, so no. But no. Yeah, look. And that's racing, ultimately, at the end of the day. It's about finding your position and improving, as we see Luke Addison currently in P12. And I did kind of speak about these guys, you know, the usual guys who drive in the top 10, how they're going to work it out. It's unfortunate that Apes and Tima had the terrible incident in the opening lap, and he's kind of retired the car. But Luke Addison is still there or thereabouts, and I'll be interested to see how he pans out for this race, whether they can make it into the top 10, especially after the laps. As we head on board now with Adam Spansky sitting pretty in P5, and again now finally catching up to the back of Tariq Adam in P4, and putting Tariq Adam under serious pressure, considerable pressure, as we can see Tariq Adam trying to find a few different lines there. I think the advantage will be with Spansky again, end because he's in the McLaren, so we will see that straight line advantage come into play, but it is all about the way Tariq Adam defends and positions that Ferrari in the entrance to corners and the rotation in mid-corner. As we saw towards the end of last season, actually throughout the whole of Season 1 of the Genesis Esports Kaizen Championship, just how good Tariq Adam can be at defending. So David will see that again, those alternate and just making sure no one can get past.
Well, we made it half an hour to Pello before your internet started playing up, so fingers crossed that's it, got it out of its system. We'll wait and see on that one, but 12 minutes left to go in the pit window. We've had about 2 cars come into the pit lane. Just over here comes Marco Bischoff then onto the back end of one of the McLarens. I don't think, onto the back end of the Ferrari, excuse me, that is Philippe Minard. I wasn't sure because the timing screen didn't update in quick time there. It's still showing around about 0.4 of a second, but thankfully it's updated itself, so it is just 0.1 of a second here. And again, you're seeing the McLaren down those straights, it gets the run, but it can't do anything because the Ferrari is that damn fast in the corners and able to take much more speed. And I'm going to guess now that this is now going to come down to strategy between these two as they come round the final corner here. It's going to be about which car blinks first and which car decides to jump into pit lane, and that's Philippe Minard. He has had enough. He's into the pit lane to get new fuel and get tyres, and well, there we go. That is what we were waiting for here to Pello. The case is how much is going to be held by the fact that Marco Bischoff has stayed out.
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a bit tricky because Marco Bischoff still has that 10-second time penalty, so I don't think that big a threat to Philippe Minard, but it's all the cars around them. And now we're seeing a lot of cars taking to the pit lane, kind of now exercising their strategic options and making sure that they've worked out or they feel comfortable in exercising and taking that mandatory pit stop. So it will be interesting to see the next 5 minutes, how it plays out. Will we get overcuts, undercuts? Just will we get incidents again exiting the pit lane? Because we have seen in previous races, some drivers will be very close to each other as they exit the pit lane, and that can lead to incidents in and of itself. So interesting period of the race, halfway through the hour race, 30 minutes to go, mandatory pit stop in midway, drivers are taking their mandatory pit stop. So again, the race is kind of resetting and it's boiling up again, and we should see some spectacular racing from here going forward.
Yeah, and with a lot of these cars being placed out of position as well, it's important to remember that there's essentially a state of flux that the race gets put into during these pit stops at the moment, and then that gets resolved after 10 minutes is done. Then we get an idea of what is at stake. But for the meantime, Noah Ader comes out behind Philippe Minard, 4.2 seconds. That's pretty much where they were as they came into pit lane. But the question for me is what can the likes of Marco Schade do to recover his race just now? He's up into P7, but Marco Bischoff is in the lead now by 6 seconds ahead of Adam Spansky. We're going to have to keep an eye on that car and see when he goes into pit lane. I think he's into pit lane now, so there we go. Marco Bischoff blinks 1 lap later. I don't think there's going to be any difference whatsoever in terms of the pit stop. So now we need to keep an eye on where our race leader was, Philippe Minard. He is in that 705 car, so he is coming through into Curvesine, and this is coming into Bousset corner then. So again, depending on how long this goes, I do think that Philippe Minard might be able to get the undercut on this one. It's going to be very, very close, however.
Yeah, it's one of those where Philippe Minard needs, dare I say, as close a lap as possible to perfect, just to make the strategy work and get ahead of Marco Bischoff. So interesting, again, we've spoken about that. And ladies and gentlemen, what usually happens is when you exit the pit, the lap after you're in the pit lane, you try and go as fast as possible to create an offset to the drivers that pit around you. And as we see here, Philippe Minard is through the start.
He's done.
Strategy has worked out brilliantly for him as the other cars in the pit lane only start getting moving now, and he's got an impressive buffer to the rest of the grid. That's how you do it. That's how you get the strategy correct.
Yeah, that's a great run for Philip Minard then, as that was also Valentin Barrier that went through ahead of there then, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. So I believe Barrier's now gone up into second place there, and that was obviously always going to happen there because there was the 10-second stop, the 10-second penalty that was given to him after the pit stops there. So Marco Bischoff going to fall all the way down through the order and potentially drop down into about P7 or P8. There is Marco Bischoff onto the back of Valentin Barry. Now what does make this interesting is I have a horrible feeling here, Tapello, that when Marco Schade comes into the pits, he's going to be thrown out around about the same time as Marco Bischoff, as the two of them coming neck and neck down this Mistral straight there. Look at the run. This is exactly what I was talking about on that McLaren 720S there. Gets the run on the Aston, and there is not a damn thing that Valentin Barrier can do about it.
Yeah, he kind of just needs to position his car and be safe, if that makes sense. But yes, again, we are seeing that straight line advantage of the McLaren in this race on this circuit. So again, I think that's how you feel comfortable as a driver, knowing the strength of your car, especially when you're on a circuit that suits the strengths of your car. You just drive it according to that. But very interesting race from Valentin Barrier. We did talk about him a lot in the previous race, and I remember I said he was my driver of the day, and I think you concurred with that, David. So good to see him just trying to be competitive as much as they can. But yeah, these things happen in racing as we focus now on Marco Schade in P3 going for the overtake on Sasha Vassner. Again, top three currently have yet to pit. George Boothby in first, Marco Schade in second, and Sasha Vassner in third, as we see Marco Schade getting the overtake done going into Sean Curve. But is this, they're going side by side, and so we're seeing a lot of revenge play here as we shift back to see the cars exiting the pit lane. But again, drivers are trying to get their positions correct and competitive throughout this race, but seems like Sasha Vassner coming out top of that two-way battle with Marco Schade, currently holding P2, but yet to serve their mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, that was an impressive defensive driving there from Sasha Vassner there in that 309 car. Decided that they weren't given that position after all to Marco Schade, and basically allowed them to cross themselves up at that curve de Signes as the two of them come into pit lane. A little bit of gamesmanship here by the Honda of Marco Schade. Now, this is what we want to keep an eye on. Where is this car, and where is the 717? The 717 then coming into curve de Signes here for lap number 19, though in front of Valentin Barrier just now. I think that Bischoff might be comfortably ahead of this car. We'll wait and see though. It could be a little bit closer. Certainly it'll be a hell of a fight if Schade is released around about these two cars here. That will be very, very entertaining for the final 25 minutes of this race here. We've got 5 minutes left to go in the pit stop window, so that means that cars are going to have to come in this lap or the next to serve their mandatory pit stop, although pretty much everyone has been in to serve their pit stop. So there we go, Schade has completed his pit stop. He's down off the jacks, and this is going to be mega close in as they run down. Oh my goodness me, there we go. You wanted a race, well, you've definitely got one. He's going to have to get up to speed here, but he definitely will, because Valentin Barrier is starting to get himself back into the groove here. And Tapello, I think we have got a ding-dong battle on our hands with these three.
Yeah, look, I think we're at that stage now where they've kind of found their group, and they're going to compete within that group for the next... Looking at these guys, I think they can go for the remaining 24 minutes and try and swap positions around themselves, keep pressure on each other. But that's why we love racing, and that's why we're here week in, week out, watching the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship, because that is the kind of racing that we love to see, David.
Ow, what the hell just happened there? George Boothby has got a drive-through. Your championship leader has got a drive-through penalty. He was struggling in this race as it was, and that is going to absolutely nuke any chance of a decent performance. This will almost certainly take up his drop week just now. Is that track limits, or is that going to be speeding in pit lane? I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure it's almost going to be exceeding track limits there, but Well, there you go, drama right now. 7th place for the Ferrari, and that is going to drop him, I would imagine, down outside the top 15, perhaps. We'll wait and see how that goes. Sasha Vassner, though, in 9th position. So that's a very, very strange one as well, isn't it? Sasha Vassner and Marco Schade came into the pits at the same time, and the two of them well, again, I'm a little bit confused by that one as well as the order goes through, because remember when Schade came out, he was right behind Valentin Barrier and Marco Bischoff, and now he's away down to 11th position. Have I just had a fever dream or something like that? I'm not too sure. Anyway, more penalties from race control. Instead between cars 25 and 778. It's a 15-second time penalty for the 778 for causing a collision. So a little bit late there, and George Ruthie's done. Oh, he is rage quit. Well, Tapello, that's a shocker for tonight.
When last did you see that kind of action from George Boothby, who's been so consistent, so dominant, and we've praised him week in, week out. You know, the first 3 weeks of the season, we've kind of looked at how George Boothby was driving, the confidence with which they were driving, you know, just how calm they were, how cool they looked. Everything just worked in their favor. And this, dare I say, is about as disastrous a race as you can have. So a very, very disappointing race for George Boothby, as we have another notification from race control. Incident between cars 180 and 996 on lap 1, 15-second time penalty to car 180. So again, the stewards having time to review the incidents on the opening lap, and that's why we're seeing some delayed penalties coming out, ladies and gentlemen. So the stewards are hard at work trying to go over these incidents, look where maybe they might have missed something, because as we did mention, there was a lot of carnage in the opening 2 laps. So the stewards are kind of just catching up and making sure they've evaluated every situation properly.
Yeah, and while that is the case, you'd think that they'd maybe realise that it's a 60-minute race, as Marco Schade now has a drive-through penalty. That's going to be for track limits as well. So this is what we said was going to be something to watch out for. I didn't expect it to catch so many people out there. That is absolutely stunning. Shout out to everyone in the YouTube chat tonight, especially Mr. Porsche GT, who kind of pointed out about 15 minutes ago that it wasn't actually going to be a fight between Philippe Minard and Marco Bischoff, because we forgot about his 10-second penalty. So thank you very much for reminding us of that one. We do make quite a lot of mistakes up here in the commentary box, and unfortunately that's just because Tapello's got to work alongside me, so I think I tend to rub off on him, unfortunately. As we see Christian Deploy making his way down onto the back of Samir Foch. This is the battle for P13 right now. 20 minutes left to go in the race.
Again, David Christie, ladies and gentlemen, ever so humble, not giving himself the praise that he deserves. He's been holding my hand throughout the first season, and he's still doing a fantastic job at it. But looking at the gaps in front, Tariq Adam has finally opened a bit of a gap again to Adam Spansky, but Spansky closing the gap, so their gap is kind of fluctuating corner after corner, straight after straight, sector after sector. So the pressure's still on Tariq Adam to do something. Philip Minard has kind of pulled the way 4.3 seconds away in front, and we kind of forget about them when the race is like this. But a lot of drivers still putting pressure, and there will be changes. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, the last 19 minutes of this race will be very crucial, because I think we can still expect more drive-through penalties because of track limits in the remaining 20 minutes, and we can expect a lot of pressure and some overtakes coming, as we see Adam Spansky once again within 3/10 of Tariq Adam. So the pressure's still there, so Tariq Adam has to make sure that his lines are correct heading into turn 1 in Verrier. Very easy to lose the car in this sector, because you want to take the curbs as much as you can, but as we've seen multiple times throughout the season as well, touching the curbs too much can unsettle the car, and you trying to correct can result in you losing it completely, as we see Tariq Adam opting for the inside line defensively there, defending very well as they head into St. Bo. Again, very critical to get on power as soon as possible out of turn 6, because that is, turn 7 is flat out. You don't even think about it till the wheel full throttle setting up for the Mistral straight, and it is very crucial for Tariq Adam to get that exit correct, because we have spoken about the straight line advantage of the McLaren. It seems like Tariq Adam was able to pull the gap as needed to try and defend from the McLaren, but surely this battle will continue for the next 18 minutes. It's not over here, David.
No, it certainly isn't, and this battle is just going to rage on as we've got just over a quarter of an hour left to go here. As we were saying, it's the McLaren that really does have the grunt here. We see Sasha Vassner in a fight for 7th position, Tommy Rozier just in front, you've got Sakiri Lehtinen just behind as well, and Shada's going to have to come in for this pit stop this time by. I believe this is the final lap. This is a battle for 13th position, you've got Samir Foch, and that was, I believe, Oscar Kerr getting ahead of Christian Duploy in the Mercedes. So that was a great move by Oscar Kerr there, and again the Genesis Esports cars really having some mixed opportunities and mixed affairs here tonight, and it's an instant between cars 52 and 40. That is Lovrink and Romano. 5-second time penalty for the 52 for causing a collision. Remember as well that the stewards and race control, they punish the incident and not the outcome. So if a car crashes and takes out 15 cars, it's the incident that gets judged, and not how many cars basically they take out. There goes Marco Schada for the world's slowest pit lane drive, and that will feel like an eternity for that Honda driver as he goes through. He'll be jumping about inside that virtual cockpit and desperate to get back on the power, but in realistic terms that car is almost certainly going to be outside the top 15 when he gets going again. We're back to this battle here for 7th position.
Yeah, look, and you're right, David. I love how professional the stewards are. Again, you focus on the incident and not the outcome, because the outcome is out of the hands of the driver. The incident is what is important. So I love the sternness, the correctness, the cool-headedness that the stewards show when dissecting these incidents and choosing where to give the penalty. They follow the evidence, and it's not an exercise in favoritism. But as we see Sasha Vassner down the inside of Tommy Rozier, will they get into the inside line? Isn't the fastest way sometimes. As you can see, Tommy Rozier holding it on the outside, but again, Sasha Vassner still on the inside, side by side. These drivers are giving each other really good space. They haven't made contact so far. That was beautiful racing, side by side, respectful, always aware and always in control. As we see Lehtinen now in that Honda, trying to sneak in a position, trying to get themselves involved in this battle and make it a three-way battle. But I love the respect and control shown by the drivers there. It tends to happen that when you go side by side into corners, the inside car tends to lose a bit of control, but they were always in control of their cars going through those curves. No incident, no touch, pure racing. Brilliant to see.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff, and it really is what we want to see here at Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. Firm, fair racing, and giving everything and leaving absolutely nothing on the table. That's exactly what we've got here, because that's the most rewarding for the drivers. That's what they want. They want to be scrapping with other drivers. They don't want it to be an easy affair. They want to enjoy the races that they've got, knowing that they gave everything that they could, but also that it was fair, and that they don't feel grieved in any way. That's what we're seeing here, certainly from Samir Foch, from Oscar Kerr, and from Christian Duploy, with just 15 minutes left to go in the race. Meanwhile, being quite honest with you, it's pretty much done and dusted at the front of this race right now so far for that 705 of Philippe Minard. What a race he's done. He's dealt with all of that pressure, let everybody else fight behind him as we're on board with Adam Spansky. But yeah, Philippe Minard, Tapello has just done an excellent job there. He had to deal with the early battles between Marco Bischoff and Marco Schade. He fought that off, then had a 2-second gap, and it's kind of been it's been straightforward for him, but it's not easy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, most definitely. I fully understand what you're trying to get at, and we've spoken about this multiple times on these broadcasts. Sometimes that's just what you need as a driver, to do the small things that you can do, and the race will come to you. And I think that's what Philip Menard did so perfectly. It's sort of like he's driving while watching the race as well, because it seemed like the moment Marco Bischoff got the 10-second penalty, it's like Philip Menard instinctively knew where to push, where to relax, what the situation was. So it's a brilliant drive from Philip Menard so far, and they've opened that gap up over to just over 5 seconds. So unless there's a penalty, and I'm not trying to put a curse on anything, you kind of wouldn't bet against Philip Menard finishing with this comfortable a lead. But again, fantastic by Noah Ada, who's again always the bridesmaid, never the bride in this situation, because I think the only position missing for Noah Ada is a finish on the top step of the podium. But again, another fantastic bounce back from them. But Tariq Adam, who's holding on to that third place so far from Adam Spansky, will have a lot of defending to do in the last 13 minutes of this race. So that will be a key battle to watch for the last step on the podium, David. So we will be interested to see how that pans out. As we see, there's already a lot of pressure on Tariq Adam heading into Scene Curve. Tariq Adam chooses the defensive inside line. Not always the best line, but he makes it work, kind of nudging Spansky wide. But you see now the third car of Marco Bischoff getting involved and making it oh so difficult to position your car as they head into these curves side by side. Again, brilliant driving, no contact so far, as we see finally Adam Spansky diving down the inside, and Tariq Adam has to go a bit wide there. So Adam Spansky finally gets the overtake on Tariq Adam, but now it is the McLaren of Bischoff as well getting involved, and it's a lot of carnage now as we see Valentin Barrier sneaking in and getting themselves involved in this three-way battle, making it a four-way battle, David. Very, very interesting to see how this is panning out.
That was the most incredible 8 corners that we have seen so far in this race. 3 wide through 4 consecutive corners between Marco Bischoff, Tariq Adam and Adam Spansky. Spansky binned it. He went too late into the corner there. That's what's cost him now. But look at this. The fight is still on. He's still just behind of Valentin Barrier right now. This is bonkers stuff with 11 minutes. You'd be a fool for thinking that this is going to last the whole 10 minutes without some sort of chaos unfolding out of this. We saw a very opportunistic move there from Valentin Barrier, saw all of the action that was going on, and he got to take advantage of that. And Spansky will absolutely be trying to get himself back in. Remember the top speed of that McLaren as they go along the Mistral straight here, and he's going to have a quadruple toe if he's not too far back. He'll have the toe of the Ferrari, he'll have the toe of the Aston Martin, and then of himself as well. So let's see how they do coming down this back stretch here. Unbelievable stuff to see all 4 of them fighting it out, and seeing the 3 of them fighting it out for so long. But you better believe that Marco Bischoff, I think, is going to try and make a little break for it just now. Barrier is going to try and think otherwise here to Bello.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that whole exchange worked really well for Marco Bischoff. He's not far at all from Tariq Adam, but that bit of a gap, that half a second gap, just gives him time to breathe, position their car, and especially now that everyone behind them is fighting, that just allows them to pull away slightly as we focus on Christian Duploy here in battle with Oscar Kier and Lucas Rainier behind. So again, difficult position for Christian Duploy to be in. We've seen how these sandwiches turn out in this circuit tonight, and he loses the rear as I am commentating there. So disastrous. I actually missed whether he lost the rear just through the corner or there was contact. There definitely was contact towards the end, but I'm just not sure what initiated the loss of grip. So definitely that is something we will try and get a replay on, as we see race control again. Incident between cars 213 and 78 on lap 26. 5-second time for car 213 for causing a collision, and that will be a penalty for Christian Duploy. 5 seconds, not the most terrible penalty, and definitely not the worst we've seen tonight, but definitely considerable considering this race and how it's going to pan out for the last 10 minutes, David.
I'm a little bit confused with that, because that's lap 26 and the 78 is Oscar here, so that's quite a bit further up. Anyway, we'll come back to that in just a second. Here comes Valentin Barrier, trying to give a little bit of a bump draft to Tariq Adam, trying to catch on to Marco Bischoff just now. Obviously trying to work together to catch up to that final step on the podium here, but I think the writing may very well be on the wall. That McLaren looks like he's off, and there goes up the inside Adam Spansky. That was a mistake there from Valentin Barrier, overcooking it into Kurtisenia again, but just managing to hold on to that. That's exactly the same sort of thing that we saw from Adam Spansky just 2 laps ago here, and this is sensational action from these 3 cars right now, because they're given the intent and they're given the illusion that they need to work together, but they're not getting that message, and they're deciding to fight each other hand over fist here, and this is exactly why Marco Bischoff is able to start stretching away. Don't be surprised if that is around, 0.8 of a second. It was half a second just the last sector, so this is now starting to devolve between these two. A little jink out to the inside there from Valentin Barrier, trying to put off Tariq Adam, but if I was him, I'd be more interested in Adam Spansky behind in that number 325.
And again, there is no correct answer for a driver in this situation. When you're in a sandwich where you're trying to move forward to get the overtake, but you're also defending from behind, the perfect answer doesn't exist. You still want to go for position and try and finish as high up the grid as possible, but you also don't want to jeopardize your position and lose out to the car behind. So insanely difficult position, and sometimes the best solution is just to keep going. Put as much pressure as you can on the car in front, keep pushing and maintain the optimum race pace that you can, and that's how you can make it out of these situations sometimes, as we see Valentin Barrier pulling to the inside of the Ferrari. So even looking like the Aston Martin is competitive to the Ferrari, Tariq Adam defends brilliantly again. We've spoken about Tariq Adam and just the lines that he uses in his defensive capacity. So brilliantly done there, because it was looking a bit shaky with the Aston Martin pulling to the side there. It looked as though the Aston Martin would have the legs, but Tariq Adam pulling off brilliant defense once again.
Yep, so the 3 of them still fighting it out, and not too long to go. I think probably about 4 laps left, as we've got a poll going up on YouTube then for your driver of the day, and the selections are Philip Menard, Noah Ader, Tariq Adam or Adam Spansky. So choose from any one of those 4 drivers, and we would very much appreciate your input and your thoughts on that one. For you, out of those 4, Tapello, what's your thoughts on that one?
I'm actually struggling. To pick, because right now I have it between Philip Menard and Noah Aid, and the reason for that is, as we see some overtakes happening on circuit once again, I'll get back to the point just now, as we see the McLaren of Spansky getting the position there on. Is it Spansky or is it Bischoff?
That was Spansky. No, that was Spansky.
It's Spansky, wasn't it? Yes, it was.
Yes,
it was. Yes, it was. As I was trying to gather my thoughts there. So a brilliant move again, picking up the pieces and picking up the crumbs, and that's how you make that kind of situation work. We've spoken about this, about being the 3rd car in a 3-car trade, of how you get the best view of what's happening in front of you, and as the 2 cars in front try and jostle for position, you can find the optimum line to get that move done. So brilliantly done by Spansky, just looking for that gap, as we see Tariq Adam again under immense pressure from Valentin Barrier. But I think Tariq Adam has the inside line. Is he? Yes, he is significantly far ahead to make it count in defending there, but well done, Spansky there. Put that McLaren where it shouldn't have been, and look at that, they have that gap to just try and solidify going forward. And I think, bar any crazy incident, Adam Spansky should have the number of Tariq Adam and Valentin Barrier, simply because that McLaren is working so well in the straight, and now with clear air, he should make an impression on this group.
And it's exit stage right to Tariq Adam. I think his tyres might have gone in that Ferrari. It was always going to be on the cards. It was going to be a very difficult thing to try and hold defensive line for 10 minutes straight against Valentin Barrier, and the lines have dropped, and that allows Barrier up to P5. I don't think we're going to see Tariq Adam regaining that position. Certainly not on pace because of the way that car has been going. Philippe Menard, though, coming onto lap number 30. 2 laps left to go in this race here, and what a race it has been for him. Currently leading the driver of the day standings at 67%. So again, we'll keep an eye on that one. My vote would go for Philippe Menard. That's what we were talking about actually before we saw that crazy move there. Was your dilemma for driver of the day there, Tapello?
Yeah, and the reason why I'm having this dilemma now is because Philippe Menard has done so brilliantly to be kind of a shadow in this race. We forget about him because he's driven so brilliantly, kind of survived lap 1, held their pace and made their strategy work for them. But the same can be said for Noah Ada. But looking at the move that Adam Spansky has just pulled, could that sway some of the votes his way as well? Because it's not easy, especially trying to make an impression in the final 3 minutes of a race, ladies and gentlemen. We're seeing some top-class driving here, so I'm still having a dilemma, but I am leading with Philippe Menard simply because of converting that pole into a dominant performance, and they've actually extended their gap now to 7.5 seconds. So I think Philippe Menard is making a huge statement for driver of the day, but a huge statement as well just to how competitive he can be when things work in his favor.
So looks like we're on the second last lap then, so we will get another lap after this, and then we will be able to celebrate the victor of this race then. 2 minutes left to go here at Paul Ricard, and the story of the day has been about Philippe Menard, but there have been plenty of highlights behind him. And Valentin Barry then getting that 5-second penalty. That's a bit of a shocker already, because that is almost certainly going to hand 5th position back to Tariq Adam. I'm not sure, we'll have a quick check on what that was for there, but that was the 72 dives on the night and causes a collision. So that was, I obviously didn't see that one, but well, race control have seen it, and that's a tight penalty for the number 72 for causing a collision. Well, like I say, it's only going to be one place that gets affected by that. So again, inadvertently, it's done the right thing. The person affected and the person who caused it are the only two that are affected by that. As we see Tom Rozier onto the back of Sasha Vasker with 1 minute left to go, 60 seconds left to go in the race. That means your race leader is going to be starting the final lap in about 20 seconds time, as the two of these are making their way through into the final couple of corners, as Philippe Menard comes into the final corner now, and he'll be starting his final lap. Skylar Lovrink, another car with a 5-second pulse rate penalty. He is fighting just now. There we go, 30 seconds left, but it won't matter because across the line to start the final lap then, as we go white flag, is Philippe Menard, and that gap 8 seconds to the front. And as impressive as the moves there was by Adam Spansky, I've got to say, for me personally, Tapello, that doesn't change things. Philippe Menard still my driver of the day today.
Yeah, and I think I've kind of figured out my conundrum, and Philippe Menard has just been brilliant. You know, we've harped on and on about these kind of performances from the likes of George Boothby, you know, kind of not perfect per se, but withstanding whatever the race has to show at you. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when you've raced in such a competitive field, you know that the race is its own thing. It has a mind of its own. Situations happen. You can lose the car at a corner in the traction zone under braking. So to be this impervious in the way that Philippe Menard has been, and to be fair, their race pace hasn't decreased. Dare I say, they've actually been able to maintain and sometimes be faster because their gap has consistently been growing. So I think Philippe Menard just above winning this race, but in the manner that he's done it, he's made a huge statement to the rest of the field so far today, and he's definitely becoming one of the drivers to look out for going forward, because if he can ride this confidence wave, as I was saying there, you saw him fighting that wheel to keep that car under control, getting a bit of a tank slapper there. It happens, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why I'm saying to be this dominant and to win the race in the manner that he's about to, it takes a bit of concentration, it takes a lot of skill. Now they're just having fun with that car, celebrating as they cross the finish line. Philip Menard, ladies and gentlemen, is your Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship Season 2 Round 4 winner. As we see Noah Ada and Marco Bischoff crossing the line as well, ladies and gentlemen. Have fun, ladies, and have fun, lads, because you have raced brilliantly today.
Awesome stuff, and of course, with them being teammates, it's only customary that Noah Eder gets sent off into the Shadow Realm by Marco Bischoff. Well, I'm presuming actually those are both members of Sprout Esports. I'm pretty sure they are. That's why Noah would have slowed down to do that photo finish there in second and third place. Here comes Samir Foch then, still ahead of the number 65 car. That is Marco Schada, so that has been on that final lap there. He will take 14th position at the line, and that is going to be a dismal day for Marco Schada, who was, let's not forget, fighting for a space on the podium. David Hill from Amigos Racing Team in 21st position, and I believe going to be one of the final cars, apart from Stein, down in 24th position to actually finish this race. So Tapello, 34 cars starting and 24 finishing. That's a hell of a rate of attrition, and in no small parts to that mad accident on the Mistral Straight.
Yeah, look, what seemed like a race of positioning, aggression, kind of turned, you're right, into a race of attrition, a race of survival, a race of just pushing and making sure nothing bad happens. And we've seen the likes of Philip and how they've exemplified and achieved that kind of attitude, that kind of driving. So well done to all the drivers that finished, because that first lap incident was hectic. Anyone who made it out of that, congratulations. But to the guys that have made an impression in this race, fantastic driving, well done. What a race.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. So lots of things to come up after the race then. We've got our driver interviews to do. We've also got our driver participation draw to do. That'll be coming up in a couple of moments time, where the drivers go up, basically get entered into a draw, and we give away two £20 vouchers for IMB Racewear and their amazing stuff that they have got to offer. Highly recommend the gloves that they do. They are properly spot on. Also, our driver of the day poll. Now, I went and minimised it and dismissed the poll, so I'll have to get that copy and pasted. But when I last looked, it was looking convincingly in the way of Philippe Minard, and I can't imagine too much has changed from then as well. So 60% in the favour of Philippe Minard, so that is a overwhelming win for that one. Right, so let's go and have a chat with our race winner then. Good evening to Mr. Philippe Minard. Congratulations, and well, that one came out the blue tonight.
Yeah, thanks first of all, and again another another somewhat boring race for Ricard. The curse continues like last season. Yeah, but I'm pretty happy with this one. Didn't expect it, but pretty happy.
And obviously, when I say it came out of nowhere, what I mean is the fact that coming into this, we've seen George Boothby and a lot of other names being dominant through so far. And yet, Philip, you got that fantastic qualifying session. And then from the start of the race, because everybody else was fighting, you just kind of got to run away with it.
Yeah, I mean, quali was pretty good. I had a really fast sector 3, so I couldn't really match that on the last lap. But yeah, I was pretty happy with pole in the Ferrari. Honestly, didn't really expect it with this new bop. It's still a bit unrefined, but yeah, I'm not complaining about the one in both qualifying and race. So yeah, and the race obviously was smooth sailing for most of the time, except when Mavix caught up. So I had a bit of pressure for a few laps, but it was okay.
Yeah, and obviously he did catch up and put you under a bit of pressure, but then I'd imagine, Philip, a huge sigh of relief when you saw that he had a time penalty come up.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly expecting him to just fly past, with that time penalty and try and extend the gap and overcut. But seems like the McLaren or his setup was not optimal for straight line. Or well, the Ferrari, we are kind of blessed with the straight line on this track. So I guess I kind of got lucky on the straights or on the Mistral straight with the McLaren on my back and. Yeah, but I did not expect him to just stay behind. I would have expected him just fly past, just extend that gap.
For sure. Well, listen, Philip, congratulations on the win. Is there anybody else that you want to say thank you or hello to tonight?
No, not really. Maybe just teammate Jack for sticking around with me and Luke Whitehead for chilling with me in voice. So yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, listen, Philip, congratulations. Enjoy your first win of the season, and hopefully we'll see you back on the podium next week.
Thanks. Cheers.
So there we go then, Tapello. Philip Minnaert, obviously very happy with that, and moving into next week, I think he'll be chomping at the bit to get him back up. But I believe that you're going to have a chat with Noah Ader.
Yes, I will. And well done once again. We're getting used to having you here in the commentary box for post-race interviews, Noah. How was that for you?
Yeah, I joked the quali lap was so bad. In my first flying lap, I did my time and then I didn't improve it. I had like 2 or 3 tenths in it, but I joked, I don't know what that quali was. But I managed to get P4 and then I was fighting really hard in the first laps, and then Mavix and Philip kinda pulled a gap, and on Paul Ricard it's nearly impossible to catch them again because I need the slipstream, because the slipstream is so powerful here. Obviously.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think you're touching on a key point there on how important the slipstream is on a circuit like this. Where do you feel your strengths are on a circuit that requires you to be racing? Do you feel comfortable racing around a lot of people, or are you the kind of driver where you want to just drive all by yourself and try to keep pace like that?
No, I like to drive with other cars because then I don't know, I see the car and then I want to catch this car, and then I don't know, I'm more consistent. And if I drive by my own, then I don't know, I'm lazy sometimes, and then I see like I have a 5-second gap to P3 or the car behind, and then I don't know, I automatically don't drive as consistent as otherwise.
No, then you're just like me, because that's the same problem I have. But Noah, you're on the podium and you're still missing that race win. How much do you want to be on the top step of the podium for us to announce you as a race winner this season?
Yeah, for sure. I want to win a race because so often it was so close. But I'm sure I will win one race.
No, don't worry about it, my friend. I've got my toes crossed from you. Another brilliant drive.
Thanks.
And is there anyone you want to give a shout out to tonight?
Yeah, of course, to my team, to Mavix. It is really fun. I like this race, and it's really nice.
Oh, and trust me, we love watching you every week. Thank you so much, Noah, and congratulations on another brilliant drive. P2 in this one. Trust me that P1 is close.
Yeah, I hope. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Have a good one. David, these drivers, they're so humble when they're on the podium. So humble.
Yeah, they know how to talk the talk when they're behind the wheel and shout at each other. But as soon as you get them in the interview booth, it's a slightly different story. Let's bring in Mabix, aka Marco Bischoff. Marco, congratulations, welcome back. It's getting a regular occurrence having you in here, but third place, another great result for Sprout. Talk us through that race there.
Thank you. It's great to be here, to be honest. And it's very nice for the championship. It was. I think I I could win this race today because the pace was very, very good in the McLaren. But yeah, I did a mistake out of in lap 1. So I lost the rear on the brakes, and I touched Marco Schade, so he went wide, and I got a 10-second penalty. So that was not ideal. But overall, it was a little bit of a comeback today. And yeah, P3 was, I think, the maximum with that penalty. But overall, yeah, it's a great result.
How much of a blow was that 10-second penalty when it came up? Because obviously, as you said, you were catching Philip, and it looked like there was going to be a chase on, and then you got hit with that penalty, and then obviously having to come into pit lane. What was your initial thoughts with that?
With the penalty?
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, it was my mistake. It was a little bit too aggressive in turn 3, so the straight is long enough to overtake. So it was a dump from my side to do that. And yeah, and then I had a bit of traffic, and in the end, Mina was 10 seconds, I think. The gap was 10 seconds to the end to Mina. Yeah, that was a bit frustrating, but yeah, it happens. The other drivers may be making mistakes in the next races, so it is okay for me.
Well, either way, a fantastic performance to get another podium for Sprout Esports. What's your thoughts looking forward to the rest of the season then? Because obviously, fantastic points for the championship, and you're in a very strong position.
Yeah, I think it is a bit surprising that we are so strong with the McLaren. With the Lambo, I think we can't do that like in the McLaren. So it feels great. And yeah, we need to keep going the whole season. We need to push, and yeah, we think from race to race, but I think we have a good chance to get the podium or maybe the win out of the season. We will see.
Excellent stuff. Well, is there anybody you'd like to say thanks to at all, Marco?
Yeah, as always, to the Kaizen series and the organization behind, and my teammates. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Well, listen, absolute pleasure as always having you in the broadcast, and thanks very much for an awesome race tonight. Good luck with the rest of the season.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
There we go then, Marco Bischoff and Tapello. Well, I mean, let's very quickly unpack then that race. It had so much drama. We're not the biggest fans as drivers of the track, but it always delivers action.
Yeah, look, and I think it's that slipstream effect that kind of keeps drivers close by. You know, the car behind is never losing touch with the car in front. So I think that was a brilliant race. There was a lot of action. There was a bit of strategy involved. And, you know, we had instances of close side-by-side racing, very respectful with drivers in full control of their cars. We've had incidents. I think we had a car sitting on its roof. A car was upside down. So I think we've had everything in this race.
We certainly have. The one thing we've not had so far tonight is our spinning wheel from IMB Raceware to give 2 participating drivers tonight a £20 voucher. So let's bring the wheel up and decide our first winner just now. And again, this is chosen from the drivers who were on the lead lap. So let's spin that wheel and see who gets the first voucher. Pressure is real. You can win the race, but this is the real race right here. Valentin Barrier looks like. Yep, there we go. Valentin Barrier wins our first £20 voucher. Tapello, why don't you give the command for our second spin?
And we are going to push in 3, 2, 1, go. I hope my name is in this draw. I don't know why, but I hope. And is that Romano? No, it is Clifford. Clifford gets it by the edge of the line. So congratulations to Clifford winning the IMB Raceway £20 gift voucher. very good gift after a very long race. So that will make their night, that's for sure.
Makes it very, very enjoyable indeed. Anyway, that is us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. Here is the remaining rounds. We'll be back next week at the same time for Watkins Glen, and then a fantastic 90-minute race at Kyalami for Valentine's Day. What better way to spend Valentine's Day than ignoring your loved one? Come and watch us on YouTube and have a pot noodle while you're doing that instead. In the meantime, my name has been David Christie. Joining me in the booth, as always, has been Tapelo Marioli, and been just an awesome companion tonight. A huge thank you to our broadcast production team behind the scenes of Daniel Costello, and a huge thank you to everyone at the Genesis Extreme Sim Racing team and at Genisus Risk as well for helping put this on, and to our friends at IMB Racewear, and most importantly to you out there at home for watching us and listening to us blabbering on for the past 2 hours. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your week, and we will see you very soon.